Project management is part of almost every single industry in almost every single corner of the world. Whether you're managing a project to build a factory that makes squeaky dog toys in Hong Kong, or a project to improve operations of a national grocery chain across all of its locations, the core of project management is the same, and PMI established a standardized core that remains applicable and relevant across all industries, locations, and delivery approaches. It sets up the framework from which to build and manage projects. In this video, and indeed throughout the entire series, I will be using the same set of terms as defined by PMI in the Project Management Book of Knowledge, or PMBOK. Understanding these terms is going to be critical in studying for and passing the PMP exam. Let's start with outcome. It's an end result or consequence of a process or project. Outcomes can include outputs and artifacts, but have a broader intent by focusing on the benefits and value that the project was undertaken to deliver. Yeah, that's what the book says, but the bottom line is that once the work is complete, what came out from the effort? As the official definition implies, there are often physical or digital deliverables, and those might include new processes, reports, or even new functionality in a tool or facility. However, those are usually more like byproducts because the real deliverable on the work was in the context of the bigger picture, such as what do those new processes, reports, tools, or facilities now enable or produce that wasn't happening before. In other words, does the new process make us more profitable? Or faster? More efficient? For example, now that the new factory in Hong Kong is built and producing squeaky dog toys, and at a substantially lower cost, and in far greater numbers than they were when working out of the old facility in central Tokyo, profits are up dramatically and the executives are out looking for third or fourth vacation homes. Those are examples of outcomes. The factory was built and is now operational. The operational factory is more productive and much cheaper than the old factory. Next up, project. It's a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The temporary nature of projects indicates a beginning and an end to the project work or a phase of the project work. Projects can stand alone or be part of a program or portfolio. Now, I know from personal experience that sometimes it can seem like work on a project is in fact never ending, much like Mondays. But projects do have beginnings, middles, and ends. Anything else, they're not really projects, but I'll get to that in a minute. That's not to say that projects are short. For example, transportation and infrastructure projects can span decades, sometimes even generations. Now, I know that I'm prone to exaggeration, but consider this. The United States interstate system was started in the mid-1950s, but it was not officially complete until 1992. Now, that's about 40 years. A project manager could have been wrapping up work that their father, grandfather, or even great-grandfather had started. From projects, we move on to programs, which are related projects, subsidiary programs, and program activities that are managed in a coordinated manner to obtain benefits not available for managing them individually. And here is what I was talking about a minute ago. The program can look, smell, taste, and feel like a project, but programs can be, and often are, ongoing. There's no planned completion date. There's no built-in goal where they break out the champagne and everyone goes home to find something else to do with themselves. In fact, programs can contain or include a project, or even more than one, concurrently or in series. It's been my experience that, in fact, most of them do, and thus you can start to see how and why the skills of project management directly overlap the skills for program management. In a nutshell, programs are like projects, but with larger and ongoing scope, and they can contain projects, but not the other way around. Which brings us to portfolio. Are projects, programs, subsidiary portfolios, and operations managed as a group to achieve strategic objectives. And here we continue to scale outward. A portfolio can certainly contain one or more projects, but it can, and usually does, contain one or more programs as well. And just as a program can contain one or more projects, but not the other way around, so it is with portfolios, and in exactly the same way as we saw with programs. The skills necessary to set up, track, and manage portfolios has a huge overlap with those of project management. Only the scope is bigger, and presumably so are the rewards and consequences riding on the outcomes. And next up is product. Is an artifact that is produced, is quantifiable, and can either be an end item in itself or a component item. Again, that is the book definition, but it covers an incredibly diverse set of things that can be considered products. And as I said before, some of these products are more like byproducts. They're produced as a natural result of the work to achieve the main goals. Now, these can be physical widgets, digital information or functionality, or, and this is the one that usually throws people for a loop, services. Yes, a service is a product, and that includes the ability or capacity to provide the service, such as a project to set up a veterinary clinic, where the outcome includes the product of a service, where worried pet owners can bring their beloved pooches for health checkups and interventions, such as to extricate the squeaker that their dog swallowed from the cheap dog toy that was made in a brand new factory in Hong Kong. Which brings us to project management. It's the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. Now, project management refers to guiding the project work to deliver the intended outcomes, and project teams can achieve the outcomes using a broad range of approaches, for example, predictive, hybrid, and adaptive. Now, that's straight out of the PMBOK, and it sounds pretty straightforward. But is it? I mean, look carefully at the wording. It's pretty generalized and vague, and that's not meant to be deceptive in any way. In fact, it is brutally honest. Program management is all about talking to whomever you need to talk to, working with whomever you need to work with, and basically doing whatever you need to be doing to ensure the completion of the project. Obviously, the successful completion of the project is the goal, but sometimes fate has a curveball or two in store for you, and the best you can possibly hope for is to wrap things up as cleanly and with as little damage as you can. The definition also lists some methodologies, including predictive, adaptive, and hybrid. Now, these are proven frameworks that are more or less structured against which project managers can frame the work on their own projects. Now, these are extensively referenced in the PMBOK, and so we'll talk about them quite a bit over the course of this series as well. I think the point in mentioning them here, and as part of the definition, is to emphasize that while the project manager essentially needs to do whatever's necessary to successfully complete the project, they don't necessarily need to ad-lib or wing it. At least not completely. There is plenty of readily available information out there for setting up and accomplishing any given project in many different ways. There's no need to reinvent the wheel when there are literally millions of wheels out there to choose from. I'm not saying that the work will always include rainbows and unicorns, but you will definitely be a lot happier with setting up a process and sticking to it instead of trying to wing it. In other words, a documented and repeatable process greatly improves efficiency and efficacy, and only the exceptions will require special handling. However, without those documented and repeatable processes, everything is an exception and must be handled on an individual basis. And at that point, you pretty much lose any and all potential efficiency and efficacy gains. Project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to lead the project team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. Now, project managers perform a variety of functions, such as facilitating the project team work to achieve the outcomes and managing the processes to deliver the intended outcomes. Basically, the project manager is the one tasked with bringing it all together, as I discussed with the definition of project management. They're the hub of all the activity on the project. While there are certainly projects that have been done without a project manager, I can assure you that they were not projects you want to be involved with. That's because the project manager is, almost by definition, the center of the universe for that project. It's an important role. It's a pivotal role. And that is why it can be a stressful role. And it's one that sponsors spend a lot of time and effort to carefully and deliberately fill. Then there is the project team. It's the set of individuals performing the work of the project to achieve its objectives. Now, I think it's interesting that some will define the project team separately from the project manager, as if there was one and then there was the other, and that there should be a clear distinction between the two. Now, I personally disagree with that approach, and I suspect the folks at PMI would agree with me. While the project manager is clearly defined as an individual role, as noted a minute ago, I don't think the PM sits outside the project team as something separate and apart. I think the PM is an integral part of the project team. The project team is a superset, and I think it's extremely important to remember that, because in truth, the entire team is, or should be, committed to the project and the defined goals, and as such, the entire team needs to work and act as one greater body to make the magic happen, preferably with time and budget to spare. Now, with all of that in mind, I think the PM is at the center of the project team. And that finally brings us to a system for value delivery. It's a collection of strategic business activities aimed at building, sustaining, and/or advancing an organization. Portfolios, programs, projects, products, and operations can all be part of an organization's system for value delivery. Now, value is the worth, importance, or usefulness of something. Now, different stakeholders perceive value in different ways. Customers can define value as the ability to use specific features or functions of a product. Organizations can focus on the business value as determined with financial metrics such as the benefits less the cost of achieving those benefits. And societal value can include the contribution to groups of people, communities, and the environment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the whole point of all this. Projects don't exist simply to keep us off the street or to allow us to feed ourselves. Yes, that does happen, and it's generally a good thing, especially since most of us have kind of developed a habit of eating and sleeping under a roof. However, when it really comes down to it, the projects, programs, portfolios, and the people who manage and work on them all exist as they do to produce value. And by the definition I read, you can see that value is a slippery eel to define. Value is incredibly subjective. Ask 100 people to explain how they define value, and you'll get at least 100 different answers. Ask the same 100 people to define the value of a common object, such as a supermarket or a squeaky dog toy, and you will get vastly different responses, probably ranging from zero or no value to possibly that these are the most important elements of modern civilization. Obviously, most responses will be somewhere in between, and probably most responses will be clumped together somewhere along that spectrum. But I think there's a hidden lesson in there. As a project manager, the value proposition needs to be top of mind at all times. Now, it's possible to, quote, successfully complete a project by meeting the timeline, staying within budget, and successfully meeting all the goals and metrics defined for the project, and still provide little to no value. I've seen it happen, and it's probably still happening out there somewhere every day. That is because it's not just about following the processes and hitting targets. It's also about making sure that those processes and targets are indeed milestones on the way to something of value, that they are the right processes and targets, and while that is something that can and should be done at any point, and perhaps should be done at multiple points along the way, it absolutely needs to be done at the very beginning at an absolute minimum. And here endeth the lesson for now. Now, in the next video, we'll talk a bit about the systems for value delivery. It'll be a real barn burner. Maybe not for most people, but for PMs and potential PMs, yeah, you won't want to miss it. Now, before I go, I just wanted to point out that professional and personal education in general, and certification specifically, are just a piece of the overall development strategy you should build, maintain, and tweak as you progress in your own career. The Raven Feather Group LLC was formed specifically to help you with strategizing and optimizing your personal and professional growth. Now, whether you need tweaks and feedback to your current plan, or you have a need to start from scratch, we can help you with one or more coaching sessions. Please visit our website to learn more or to send us any questions you may have. We're always happy to help. We are also happy to receive any feedback you might have, for better or for worse. Please leave a comment to let us know what you thought about the video, and while you're at it, please feel free to mash the like and subscribe buttons. Have an awesome day. Miigwech. Cheers.